What is up, everybody? It is JT Sports. I am back to you guys with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. Baylor defeats Oklahoma State 21-16 to capture their third ever Big 12 championship game. Baylor improves to 11-2 on the season. Oklahoma State suffers their second loss of the year. When you look at this game, man, this was an incredible game. Now, one of my biggest questions going into this game was going to be, was Spencer Sanders going to cost Oklahoma State this game? Because all this year, I have never really been sold on Spencer Sanders as the starting quarterback for Oklahoma State. As a matter of fact, I feel like Oklahoma State has won games in spite of Spencer Sanders versus winning games because of Spencer Sanders. And without Jaylen Warren, their best playmaker on offense, Oklahoma State was forced to rely on Spencer Sanders a lot more than what they would have liked, and it ended up being the main catalyst for why they lost this game. Now, I was really surprised that Oklahoma State was still able to hang around in this game, despite how poorly Spencer Sanders performed in this game, but their defense was really good considering the certain situations that they were in, having to come on the field and defend a short field. On top of that, they played phenomenal in the second half. They allowed no points to be scored by Baylor after halftime. And when you look at that big goal line stand that Baylor had, there were a lot of people coming from the Oklahoma State fan base who felt like the running back was avoiding contact. He should have just put his shoulder down and tried to run his way through for the touchdown. And I definitely understand where people are coming from, but playing football, I never really played at a high level, but playing football at a high school level, I've been in some situations like that. And the reason why you don't really try to run through contact is that in that situation is because when you're getting out to the edge, you're hoping that you can just beat the defender out with your speed. You never really want to come back in because then you lose your momentum, you lose your edge, and you didn't really have the leverage really to run through the defender for the score. So mainly, I felt like that was really the best situation, how the running back of Oklahoma State went about trying to ice the game, trying to win and get that go-ahead TD for the Cowboys to get the win. It's just that he didn't really have that speed on the outside. And if Oklahoma State had Jaylen Warren in that situation, there is no doubt in my mind that they go ahead and they score that touchdown. The running back had the right mindset. I agree with what he tried to do. It's just that he just didn't have enough speed on the edge to beat out that Baylor defender, and they ended up coming up short on 4th and goal. But this was a really phenomenal showing by freshman quarterback Blake Shapen for Baylor. There was one point in this game when he was 15 of 15. He threw no incompletions for pretty much the first entire half of the game. It seemed like he was accurate, made great decisions with the football. And I'm be honest with you, I was not expecting this performance out of Blake Shapen. You look at the fact that Jerry Bohannon didn't play in this game, so you go to your backup QB, matched up against one of the best defenses in college football. He didn't struggle one bit. On the other hand, Spencer Sanders looked like the guy who was inexperienced, who the moment felt like it was too big for him. And without Jaylen Warren, you knew that this Oklahoma State offense was going to have a tough time. But their defense did keep them alive in this game. Surprisingly enough, they held Baylor to 0 points after halftime. So their defense definitely adjusted. But Baylor's defense ended up coming up on top because to get a goal line stand in that situation, and remind you that Oklahoma State got a pass interference call that went their way, which gave them a new set of downs, and they were pretty much in the end zone, it seemed like. And Baylor's defense stops them on 4 consecutive plays. Now, I don't know about the decision to throw that pass, but, I mean, you do kind of have to switch it up. Maybe they were looking to catch the defense off balance. I don't have a problem with that. But Baylor's red zone defense was another reason why they were able to win this game, because earlier when Oklahoma State was struggling, they got inside the red zone, they had to come away with field goals. They only walked away with 6 points. Then they get into the red zone to win the game. They also failed to punch it in. So the red zone defense for Baylor was outstanding. And do you guys know how hard it is to get a red zone stop in that situation coming off a defensive pass interference? Because you're tired, your hands are pretty much on your hips, you're grasping for air. It was a really tough situation, and you felt like Oklahoma State had all the momentum to go ahead and win the game and capture the Big 12 championship. But Baylor and Dave Aranda said, nah, we're going to fight and we're going to find a way to survive. And that's what they did. They pretty much survived in advance. And this is a remarkable turnaround for this Baylor football program, because remember last year under Dave Aranda in their first year, they went 2-7, and going into this season in 2021, not too many people had high expectations for Baylor. As a matter of fact, pretty much everybody in the college football world, when it came to predictions, only had Baylor winning between 5 and 7 games, being bowl eligible, being barely above bowl eligibility, and not really having all that big of a factor in the Big 12 championship race. So they go from 2-7 season 1 under Dave Aranda. Remember that Dave Aranda is taking over the program at this time, well, a year before, when Matt Rule decided to leave Baylor for the NFL, who is now he's the current head coach of the Carolina Panthers. So year 1 you go 2-7, year 2 you go 11-2, and you win the Big 12 championship. Like, if you were to ask a random college football fan right now, did you expect Baylor to win the Big 12 championship before the season? If they were to tell you yes, don't believe anything they say, because they are lying to you, because not too many people even had Baylor winning more than 6 games and being bowl eligible. So this was a phenomenal season, and what a great way to top off a great season, a remarkable turnaround with winning the Big 12 Conference Championship. Now, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you have to be incredibly disappointed, because this was your opportunity to not only win the Big 12 Championship game, but also punch your ticket into the college football playoffs, and remind you that you just defeated Oklahoma, who pretty much has been the thorn in your side for year after year. You were finally able to beat them, get into the big game, and you come up short. So Oklahoma State missed a big opportunity. They definitely have to get this quarterback situation figured out, because going into next year, Spencer Sanders is still your starting quarterback. He's going to hold you back again, because Spencer Sanders never really was big on him, really inconsistent, costed Oklahoma State a lot of games. The only reason they were able to find a way to win those games was because of their defense, but their defense was not able to bail them out this game because their offense was on the field. And when Spencer Sanders needed to make a play the most, he wasn't able to do it. Now, maybe I would have tried to call a designed quarterback run in that situation, maybe a quarterback power to the left or to the right, because you look at the speed and you look at the size of Spencer Sanders. But mainly they lost this game because of lackluster play from Spencer Sanders. And remind you that Baylor gave Spencer Sanders a tough outing in their last matchup. I believe that he threw 3 interceptions. He throws 4 interceptions. He had 2 interceptions early on, which really halted the momentum of Oklahoma State. And when you got an offense that's struggling, you cannot afford to turn the football over. You have to make the most of your possessions. But Oklahoma State, their defense kept them alive. I was really surprised that they still had an opportunity to win this game in the end, but ultimately Baylor was able to come up on top, less turnovers, and they were better in the red zone on both sides of the football. Offensively and defensively, they were really phenomenal in this game when it came to coming up big inside of that red zone area. So Baylor wins their 3rd ever Big 12 championship game. Let me know what you guys think about this game down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure that you check out the JT Sports Podcast Every video that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on every single podcasting platform: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. The JT Sports Podcast is available. All you gotta do is type in the JT Sports Podcast on any podcasting app, or go to the links down in the description. Also, make sure that you guys leave a 5-star review, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast.